Hi there, Trevor here from Double Bill Movies. So I've got a bit of a different video for you today. It's actually going to be a top 10 video. Now I don't know if this concept for a top 10 has ever been done before. Seeing it as my channel is called Double Bill Movies, my top 10 is of pairs of movies. Plenty of trilogies and quadrilogies and all that kind of thing. But it's actually quite a good chunk of pairs of movies. So let's get started. At number 10, they're kind of in an order, but they're not sort of a definitive order. But so yeah, 10 to 1, because 1 is definitely my favourite. But we start off with the Exterminator pair, the lovely Arrow window box version, which I had to hunt for because I kept getting the generic sort of release, because they all kept using this generic image on eBay and Amazon and other places I was looking. But I have one now, and I have a first pressing from 101 of Exterminator 2. So that's pair number 1. Now, they don't necessarily have to, one film ends and then the next one starts, as a lot of these do, but they do sort of conclude the story. Right, now the next pair, there are actually 3 films, but the third one is kind of so far removed it literally only mentions these first 2, so I don't count it as part of the group. So this is a pair of movies. And it is Hostel Part 1 and 2, and very brutal films, but you know, I keep saying, if you're going to do these horror films and they're about brutal things, then kind of don't shy away from it, and these definitely don't. But you know, I'm always up for films that suggest horror, gore and violence and this, that and the other. You know, I don't all have to be out and out in your face, if you see what I mean. So, but when they do, then I like to see it. So Hostel 1 and 2, that's number 9. Now they're not all horror pairs, probably half of them. So another pair. Now the first one is by far the best movie. The second one, I think a lot of people were let down by it, but the fact it literally, the second one starts where the first one ends, you know, and it does say part 2. I think you can just sit and watch it as one big long movie, and I found it better doing it that way. I enjoyed the second one more, as it, you know, concludes the story, and that is The Descent Part 1 and Part 2. Of course, I've got nice lovely slips on these. I need to watch them again as a double bill basically. So yeah, The Descent, great story. So number 6. Now this character is about to have a very big anniversary, and now, strangely enough, although what I have here is actually the first book that was written for this franchise, it was not the first film that was made, but in a sort of a pseudo reboot, it was the first film made with a certain actor. And I think it's revitalized the franchise extremely well, and the fact you don't get to hear his name until the end, when he has basically one of the baddies that he's chasing at gunpoint, and he asks who he is, and he says, "My name is Bond, James Bond." So we have Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. Now, if you've never watched them back to back, and it was a long time having seen this one before you watch Quantum of Solace, that you might not necessarily put them together, but Quantum of Solace literally starts where Casino Royale ended, and it basically, this sets up the story for the bigger fish who are in this film. So this is the bigger picture, and both of these films will feature in my Pinewood Studios tour, which I am getting to do. I'm looking for my old pass and I can't find it anywhere, and I don't want to do it without it, so bear with me. But there we go, that's my number 6 choice. Brilliant pair of movies. So number 5, hang on, 1, 2, yes, I can count backwards. Now these are a great pair of films. Again, there is a third one, but it's kind of a bit far removed from the first two, and there was quite a long gap between them, and it was actually done by a different studio. But they are all written by the same guy, which is Paul Hogan, and that is Crocodile Dundee 1 and 2. This is an awesome, just try and get it to work. Come on. This is good, isn't it? Come on, work. Damn you. It's only DVD, but I think that's great packaging. I really like that. So, yep, there we go. Brilliant films. And, you know, he's done a few other films that I thought were really good. Lightning Jack with Cuba Gooding Jr. Was a very good film. But yeah, love watching these as a kid growing up, and must watch them again soon. I really want to get them on Blu-ray, but I'm hoping Paramount will do a nice 4K of them, because they're worth it. So that's number 5. Right, now I've only got the outer box here because the 2 films are buried over there, but this is a perfect way to show them both off. Now literally, and I've always wanted to make a film or something like this, it's the same story from 2 different perspectives, and it's so well done. You know, yep, even having to read subtitles on one of them, as it's all done in Japanese, didn't put me off. Clint Eastwood had done an amazing job of doing Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima. So yes, if you didn't know why they're packaged together, it's literally the same story, but one from the American side and the other one from the Japanese side. Very well done, and you know, we don't often get that perspective, but definitely recommend these, even if you're not necessarily a World War II fan. If you want to see 2 amazing films by an amazing director and of course actor, then get these 2 definitely. Right, now you know what, that is in the right order. Now, as much as the first part of this pair has to be my favourite film of all time, the second one doesn't let it down, but it does conclude the story, because there's an opening sequence to the first film that introduces some characters, and you never see them until the second film, or you never see them again until the second film, and that always confused me as a kid. And it was a long time before I got to see part 2, and suddenly there they were. But at that time, I didn't clock that, you know, it was one big story out of the 2 movies. And it is Superman the movie and Superman 2. So yes, ideally, both films should be watched back to back if you want to get the full picture. And of course, you know, seeing Terence Stamp as Zod, and then he disappears with the other 2 villains that he has with him, And you know what happens to them in the second one is just brilliant. The way Kal-El, Superman, the way he deals with the situation, and playing around with Gene Hackman, you know, Lex Luthor as well. But you all know my thoughts on Superman because hopefully you've seen my video on Man of Steel and Superman the movie. If not, go and check it out. So now to a horror franchise that is a bit of a mess, but I think we are eagerly awaiting a 4K, hopefully from Second Sight, of the original. And that original is by far the best horror film of all time as far as I'm concerned. It will never be beaten, and I stand by that. But this remake and the prequel that was made to go with the remake, I think stand up really, really well against the original. And if you haven't worked it out yet, it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So there's the beginning, which is the prequel to this remake. Now I did a video on these two as well, called 3 hours of total carnage or something like that, Chainsaw Carnage or whatever it was. Again, it's in my playlist somewhere, so check it out if you like. But for that I obviously watched them back to back, and they really work back to back. Again, not quite sort of this one finishing and this one starting, but the characters, Ali Yomi reprises his role. How do you sort of reprise? Because this film comes before this one, but he did this first and then he reprised it to do an early, no, whatever. See if I can make a re-rise. I don't know, a surprise, whatever. Anyway, so that's Texas Chainsaw Massacre the beginning and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 remake. Great pair of films. Right, now we are quite possibly into the best franchise ever in existence. Doesn't necessarily have the best movies ever, because yeah, a certain director kind of took too long in doing the prequels, and then he kind of gave away everything to someone else to do the sequels. But there is one film in there that helps tie it all together beautifully. But first, so at number 2 in my top 10 paired movies, because this kind of literally does one end and the next one start, and that is Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And yes, these are VHSs, and yes, they are the original theatrical cuts. So unfortunately they're not widescreen, so I can't sit down and watch them in their full glory. I can't actually sit down and watch them anyway because my VHS player is in the loft. But I would love to remedy that one day and get these on and watch them in their original unfettered version. So if that's those two at number 2, what's going to be number 1, eh? Well, when I saw the first one of these movies, which is actually the last one made, out of those 4 anyway, and then when the end scene came on, which was a last minute filming process, they very nearly didn't have that scene, but it was such a genius stroke that they did it, that many people on YouTube and that have tied the 2 movies together, and it's well worth watching if you haven't seen the clips lead one into the other without any credits or anything. And I've sort of just about managed to do it between my 2 players, my PS3 and my Pioneer player, where I watched the first film in my Pioneer player, and because I only had to press a button on my amp, my AV receiver, to switch from that to the PS3, and because there's a resume from last sort of point on these discs, that because obviously I'm not using the VHS, but I was doing it with the Blu-rays. I was almost able to do it seamlessly, and that of course is Rogue One and Star Wars. Yes, Star Wars, not A New Hope, Star Wars. Now obviously when I did the Blu-rays it was A New Hope, but we all know that it's actually called Star Wars. So that's my VHS version, and that's my 4K version. I have the 3D Steelbook of Rogue One. I thoroughly enjoyed seeing this in the cinema. This, until I started watching Superman again, used to be my favourite film of all time. In some ways I preferred this, and so that automatically then has to become my favourite film of all time. But then I sort of think to myself, well, if it wasn't for Star Wars A New Hope, this wouldn't exist, and this wouldn't be as good, because it's leading straight into that. So anyway, they're both amazing, and that is my top 10, first ever top 10 on my channel, and my top 10 paired movies. Now I'm going to do this as a tag movie video, and I tag Bryn from Horror Hands. So Bryn, if you're up for it, mate, and you can find 10, it can be 5 as well, if you can only find 5 pairs, because it was going to be either a top 5 or top 10. And I know primarily you only have horror films, so that's fine. But if you can find 10 pairs of films in your collection that you really like, then yeah, I'd be interested to see it, and see if we can tag some other people and get other people to do it. Be great. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to set your notifications to all. As I said briefly, I will be getting my Pinewood Studios tour videos up and running soon. Just want to find my pass. I don't know where it is, and I really want you guys to see it, and I really want to look more authentic when I'm talking on the video for the tour. But I'll leave a link in the description for what films you need to take part in the tour. And as I keep showing this, this is by far my week with Marilyn. This is by far the most important one, because it shows so much of Pinewood. It's like this takes you on a tour. But of course, if you don't know where you are, then it's not much of a tour. But I can tell you where we are. So anyway, also we've got coming up episode 3 of the 39 series that Bumper and I are doing, Bumper's Movies. He did episode 2 last night, so jump over to his channel if you want to catch up. Both of our thoughts on the film Anthropophagus the Beast, and yeah, we had some differing thoughts, and that was good. It's nice to know that we thought differently of it, but we both liked it anyway. Enough rambling. End of the video. Take it easy.